All right, welcome to another week of Prem Review. I told you these were going to be coming in thick and fast when we got back from the World Cup. I can't even keep up with what week we're even supposed to be on. It just goes game. It's like Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know. We're all over the fucking place. But anyway, we're going to be doing them right till the end of the season. We're coming up to the halfway point. And so we will sit down and have a look and see where our season predictions are for this week. It's kind of a bit, the more things change, the more they stay the same. But before we get into the games, sad news this week. David Gold, the co-owner over at West Ham, standing football man, passed away at the age of 86. Kind of wanted to just point out that, his passing, it's kind of reflective in a way of almost like the changes that you see in football as a whole, because he is what I would call a football man and the type of owner you're not really going to see a lot of in the future. You've seen the type of people that are coming into the Premier League now. You've seen the type of people that are buying Premier League clubs now. Well, whatever you think about David Gold or whatever you think about some of the, older school owners, David Gold, he's not cut from the same cloth. He was the son of an East End gangster, a convicted criminal who, worked his way up from having nothing. He used to sneak in to Upton Park when he was a kid for free, to watch the games for free. A lifelong West Ham fan, and built up his fortune, through lingerie and everything else, and just like for me, a guy that was much maligned by a lot of football fans, but I don't know, I never really felt that way. There's a great story about him buying the second ever FA Cup because he didn't want it to go overseas, like an overseas bias. He paid $500,000 out of his own pocket to ensure it stayed in the UK. And obviously when he had the opportunity to take over at West Ham, he was at Birmingham before Carson Young, that fucking disaster happened. And, I think by and large, while he had to deal with protests and everything with the move away from Upton Park, I think it's going to be his legacy long term, that West Ham are a modern club now and have this huge stadium and everything else. So you're not going to get many owners like that in the future, if ever again, really. So sad news. But anyway, into the football. I want to start by talking about Tottenham. We've gone into Tottenham quite a bit in recent weeks. Certainly since the World Cup, we've come back and we've seen a pretty embarrassing Tottenham Hotspur, if we're just being honest about it. For me, I don't think Conte's helped. I like Conte. I've said it before. I'm a Conte fan. I loved him as a player. I love him as a manager. I think he's a winner. But at the end of the day, he's been a bit sulky. I know his contract might be up for grabs soon, but he's been a bit sulky and maybe I'll leave everyone out from the World Cup. And it's just like, it's not who he is. He's always been very forthright, but there's like a despondency to his messaging. So you combine that with what I think is just genuine problems at Tottenham. They don't have a great squad in terms of creativity. I think they've got a passable defence, an above-average goalkeeper, an amazing front line, like one of the best in the Prem, and somehow they muddle through and make it work. And that's kind of Spurs in a nutshell. I still think they can fight for top four this season, but I'd like to see them pick someone up in the transfer window, because it's not fair to put it all on Son and Kulusevski, to a lesser degree Perisic, Bentancur. These are the players that you're having to rely on kind of time and time again to dig out results. Kane obviously goes without saying. But yeah, so they're feeling pretty good. They play Palace and they got a 4-0 win because, as I said, Palace just the coin toss team. Every time you think Palace are going to start turning a corner, they get slapped because they're just mediocre. They're just mid-table. They're just a mid-table side where it's like toss a coin. That's whether or not they win or lose on that given day. The thing that sort of upset me a little bit about this win, Kane obviously beat Alan Shearer's record. Alan Shearer had a record no one thought it was ever going to get beat, because it was like in 300 Premier League games he had 196 Premier League goals, and it was like, I think that Kane had been chasing for a while, but it's still a hell of a record. So you had to score today in the Palace game to beat it, and scored twice. So now he's the record holder with 198 goals, which really shows like what a great servant he's been at Tottenham. And you have to go back to that point where He had that verbal agreement to leave and maybe go to City. And this is obviously before they got Haaland, and what that would have looked like for him. There's a very real chance now he's going to play out his career and never get a Premier League. And maybe never win a sizable trophy of any stripe, really, and sort of following Shearer's footsteps in that way. Although he's still young enough to maybe get that move. So I guess we'll wait and see. I could picture him maybe asking about moving away to another club if they don't get top four this season. So watch this space. Palace architects their own downfall here. Were Tottenham good? No, they weren't. They weren't good. They were Tottenham. And what they do is, as I said, Tottenham are at their best when you allow their forwards to basically play right in your half, in that gap between the halfway line and the 18-yard box. That's where they'll destroy you if you give them that space and if you give up that territory. And that's exactly what Palace did. You look at the game, they had their midfielders in a flat line of 4 on the halfway line, playing way too high up and giving Tottenham way too much respect. Defenders not stepping up and closing down that space in that area, and just time and time again, it was just one ball, bypass all of the midfield, and then suddenly you're on the back foot, and Tottenham have the quality to be able to find a pass, shoot from distance, dribble it into the box. And they were just at 6s and 7s at the back, and that's because they really didn't get a handle on where you want to shut Tottenham down. So, pretty poor game plan. I don't know what Vieira was trying to execute, but they just gave Tottenham way too much respect. You can't do that. This is basically, that's how you gift Tottenham a 4-0 win. That's every time they've won. That's how they've done it, essentially. So it was way too easy. I don't think this is indicative of Tottenham fixing anything. I think they still need a creative player. I think Palace is still going to be pretty much at that, mid-table, lower end of mid-table. I don't think that's going to change. But overall, it eases some of the pressure. There was a bit of a groundswell of pressure on Conte, which I don't understand that. I think if you look at the squad he's got, I think he's doing a good job. But realistically now, with Chelsea dropping off and being where they are, and Liverpool dropping off and being where they are, Tottenham should be about it. Tottenham should be in the top 4. And obviously, I know Newcastle have emerged, but at the end of the day, fuck that noise, right? Tottenham should have been the next in line to vacate that over to occupy that space over Newcastle, and they haven't done it. And they haven't done it largely because of just the football they're playing right now. It's defensively poor, but it's only defensively poor because their midfield is completely dysfunctional. And if they lose one of 2 players, they cannot play. They cannot function or operate as a team. But a 4-0 win, whatever. Next up, I said last time out, Southampton. Southampton are unquestionably, for me now, the new favourites to finish rock bottom of the Premier League. Certainly relegation favourites, no doubt about that in my mind. I just don't see how they're going to turn this around. They lost to Forest at home. This Forest are notoriously awful away. To put it in context, Southampton lost 1 nil. That was only the second away goal that Forest have scored all season. That's how catastrophically bad Forest have been on the road. And to be fair, it could have been more. Forest were way and above the better team, I thought. Watching these, to be fair, only extended highlights for this game. It's one that whets the appetite to sit down and watch the full fucking 90, if I'm being real with you. But anyway, what about Southampton? Well, Southampton now, this is 6 defeats in a row, and it's 6 defeats where they've just looked adrift. They don't look like a Premiership caliber team at the moment, and this is definitely worse than when Hasenhüttl was in charge. They look worse at this point of the season than they did at the start. They've got appreciably worse. Now, how much of that can you put on Nathan Jones? I don't know, but I think Nathan Jones is a pickup. I think it was a massive risk. I'm going to repeat everything I say every week about Nathan Jones. I want him to succeed. He's a Welsh boy. It's always good to see upward mobility when young managers cut their teeth in lower leagues and then are given Premier League jobs. You like that. You like to see it. But unfortunately, what's going on here is Nathan Jones is just saying nonsense every time they lose. Get this. I wrote down some of his quotes from his post-match presser. He said, we need to not let teams play at their tempo. That was one of his things he said that had gone wrong in this game. And I'm like, well, that presupposes that a team's tempo, if you give them that, they're guaranteed to beat you. It's like, no, that's not necessarily true at all. You know, and in this case, what is Forest's tempo, especially away from home, right? What does that mean? You know, Forest have really struggled to even find their starting 11. They've signed like something insane, like, you know, 22 players, or I'm probably downplaying it. Actually, it's probably more. Don't have the exact figure to hand, but you know, they don't even know who their best 11 is. In fact, again, interesting statistic. This was the first time the lineup was unchanged for Forest. This is the first time they've played back-to-back the same starting 11s. They have had no continuity at all. So Nathan Jones talking about the team's tempo and all this stuff. It's like, Forest aren't even a fucking team. They're a collection of players that will do radically different things week to week. And then he also said there's pretty much everything we have to do better, is what he said. So in other words, we're doing nothing right. So it's like, you've had the job now for how long? You know, the World Cup was around as well. You know, you were appointed pre the World Cup. You've had a break with the players. Not a lot of Southampton players on international duty. I don't get it, Nathan. I don't know what you want. I think he said in another interview as well, he said, look, you know, we lost another game, but I'm not a miracle worker. Well, I've got bad news for you, mate. When you take the Southampton job, when they're in the bottom fucking 3, and you've got no money to fucking spend, you better be a miracle worker, mate. Because if you're not, if you ain't got those you ain't got the clout for that, then you're fucked, aren't you? The whole team's fucked. And what a ridiculous thing to say. What a ridiculous thing to say. Just like, you know, oh, it's going to take a miracle for us to get out of, you know, our current predicament. Like, fuck me, mate. Like, learn to play the game. And so I don't think he understands. Like, yeah, it's one thing when you're in the fucking, you know, first division, you know, and you're saying shit like after a game and no one cares. Just like, you know, you're in the Prem now. It's just going out a match of the day. Everyone hears everything you fucking say, and it matters. And it's significant, and the media will have a field day with it, and you're talking bollocks every week, mate. So, yeah, I just fucking despair for Southampton. I want to say as well, Brendan Johnson, one of the fucking best individual performances I've seen from any player, you know, certainly in the bottom half of the table this season. It was fucking ridiculous what this guy did. You know, he's leading the line, but he kept coming back to win the ball in midfield. He put pressure on everyone. He was like chasing down defenders repeatedly right to the very last whistle. He was, you know, he got the assist for the goal. And like his energy did not dip. Like he was up for it, man. And you know, when you're down there, like that's what you need. We're going to talk about a team that's down there in a little bit, and I want to contrast it because, you know, what Brendan Johnson, you don't know who he is. You don't know. You don't give a fuck who he is. But the bottom line is, like, that type of performance is how you get out of the bottom fucking 3. That type of performance is how you climb the table and grind out results. You know, you're low on quality, you're low on cohesion, you don't have a brilliant manager. You know, it's you got to be responsible. You got to step the fuck up and win the game yourself sometimes. And he did that ultimately. That he was the deciding factor for me. West Ham Leeds 2-2. West Ham are the team that's disappointed me the most this season, unquestionably. I think relative to their squad, I think it's a disgrace. They're where they are in the league. I think they've lost games that it's just an embarrassment, frankly. I don't know, Moyes, he hasn't even struck me as his usual self at all this season. Usually, when things like this are happening, he talks about how it's not good enough and he wants to. He hasn't been angry or fiery at all. He's just sort of been, these things happen. We've made it difficult on ourselves, but, you know, that's football, I guess. I'm like, what? Where's the Moyes? Where's the Moyes who used to have a fucking face like thunder every time his team lost? I think he's lost a little bit of his spark. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, so West Ham, they had some key players coming back for this game. Soucek returned. They left Ben Rama out, which I was like, what the fuck? Really? Ben Rama? Are you going to leave him out? Okay. But Fornals was back. So they switched it up. There was a Gued and Kera came back in as well. Like, whatever. Just squad players. But, there was a response, at least in terms of personnel, that Moyes looked at and he switched stuff up. But in the end, I thought, probably Leeds could have nicked this game for me. I want to just highlight as well, Leeds were bringing in, they've got, I think there's some really good young players. I was looking at this squad just head to head when the game started, and I was watching the fucking rundown of the players when they were coming out. And I was going, you know what? Leeds might conceivably have a better squad than West Ham, like just in terms of upside and potential. And they've brought through this Wilfried Gnonto. He's a 19-year-old Italian player. He's come through the youth ranks. He started out in Zurich, I think it was, and he's had a fucking ridiculous game, like just unbelievable in this game. Linked up really well with Somerville, who was, kind of playing off, from the front. You got Aronson in there as well. We've talked about him a few times this season, although he had a bit of a hit and miss game this time around, bit of a nightmare, missed a goal, gave away a ball for a goal, one of them. But, I thought, I was looking at the squad and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, maybe Jesse Marsh should be held a bit more accountable. Maybe this Leeds team should be doing a bit more. And as I said, Moyes thought that West Ham were looking better at the end, down the home straight. I didn't vibe with that at all. I don't think that's accurate whatsoever. Thought it was looking more likely Leeds were going to get the steal, personally. There was a moment in the game that totally did turn it for West Ham, and I'm surprised Moyes didn't make more of this. There was an absolutely shocking challenge that Somerville did. Somerville got tackled. Can't remember the lad's name who did it to him, but Somerville got tackled, and then in retribution he went and basically, it looked like a shoulder barge, but he dropped the shoulder to deceive what he was actually doing. And he has put his studs flat onto another player's standing leg. It was reminiscent of when Keane did it to Alf-Inge Haaland. It was that bad a challenge. And he had these fucking welts on his leg, like in the shape of a boot, like a cartoon, like a fucking cartoon, like a comedic boot print on his leg. He was limping off, and he's got a yellow card for that. Now, that not only is that unquestionably a red that the referees missed, and that would have really changed the game because Somerville played well, apart from this act of fucking petulance. But I'll just go so far as to say the FA want to retroactively look at that tackle. He should be banned for about 6 games, in my opinion. He was a leg breaker. He's got no place in football whatsoever, and I'm amazed. I am amazed more people are not talking about it. It could have been a career-ending tackle for sure. It was a disgrace. Anyway, that was ignored, but to Jesse Marsh's credit, I don't know if it was linked to the challenge or whatever, Jesse Marsh did something very shortly after that tackle happened. I think he sensed like his head might go, he could get sent off, or he just wasn't happy with what he saw and he thought we've been lucky there, let's just get him out the fucking spotlight and hope we don't lose him for a few games retroactively. Plus points for West Ham. Schumacher, I guess. I mean, look, he's got a fucking banging goal in this game. Aronson with the assist, but he's got Schumacher pinged this fucking ball in off the fucking post from about, I don't know, I want to say it was 22 yards, maybe more. The problem West Ham have had for me consistently is they haven't had a proven Premier League goal scorer. They've always got away a little bit by Antonio's popping off, Bowen's popping off, blah, 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 blah. But in terms of who's the reliable guy that's going to get you, 20 a season, every season, become a dynastic player, build up their name, build up their reputation at West Ham, hasn't really existed. And so Schumacher, I thought he was a good signing when they brought him in. I legitimately thought to myself, yeah, he's going to be mustard once he finds his feet in the Prem. So he looks better with every game, and he's scoring different types of goals. And if he can continue to keep a handle on the Prem and the pace of the Prem and play as well as he's playing, I don't think West Ham are in danger of going down. It's just they should be challenging for Europe, and they're not. Also, depressingly, I think Fabianski's been really good. I know he's called Flapianski, but I think Fabianski's been really fucking good this season as a keeper. It's I never thought I would be saying. I was never really a fan. Never really a fan, honestly. I thought he was just a hit or miss keeper, but he's been unbelievably solid. And down the back straight here, he's made a number of fucking saves that's kept West Ham in it. But as I said, I don't vibe with Moyes saying that he thought West Ham were going to steal it at all. I thought West Ham were blowing out their arse against a younger team, and if anything, Leeds should have stole it. They even had a chance right at the death, last chance of the game. A little sideline thing, Click is leaving Leeds. He's played over 200 games at the club. Obviously, they're going to miss him in terms of the dressing room. How much that's going to impact on their fortunes on the field, I don't really know. But just to let you know, if you're a fan of Leeds, you fair enough, nice little tribute to your boys. He went out the door. Villa and Wolves, a draw. Villa still trying to turn that corner into becoming a bit of a, more cohesive threat and a better team than they were under Stevie G. And I think Unai Emery, by and large, has done a good job. But you want to talk about wasteful squads and wasteful spending. Villa are right up there. It's staggering to me, the lack of quality in this Villa squad. Like, it is staggering to me. And so every time I see him get a result, I'm sort of like, you know what? Yeah, that's actually all right. Obviously, they've got Lopetegui, as it might be pronounced, over at Wolves now as well. So this is like two managers from the Spanish league that have played each other in the Spanish league. I think earlier in the last year. But anyway, it was just a good classic blood and thunder Premier League game. Challenges flying everywhere. Teams that have new managers where the players want to prove something to the gaffers and that type of stuff. And they were desperate for 3 points, and it really, really showed. You can't question any of the players' efforts. What I will say is just some weird squad things going on. Like, it stood out for me for Villa. Like, Ings, I don't think's played a lot since Emery got there, and I think Ings is their best striker. Now, I think Ings is also one of those guys who's like, the hype around Danny Ings never convinced me. I wasn't one of the body snatchers that was like, Ings. It never fucking convinced me at all. I always thought he was just an above average striker that, like, he give him 3 chances, he'll probably put 1 away maybe, but in terms of like what's he going to do for like carving out his own chances, how many goals is he going to bang in, what type of goals is he going to score, I mean, he was just like, he's all right by Prem standards, fair enough. And he's not played a lot. But I still think he's Villa's best striker. I know Ollie Watkins has been favoured, but they brought Ings on in this game and he's got the goal and looked really good when he came on. I think Villa can't afford to fucking snub him, put it that way. I also thought, like, I know everybody loves Bailey, right? Oh, man, poor lad. He's had a fucking just a breakdown. He was clean through on goal, basically on his weaker foot, missed an open goal, essentially. Keeper was out of the equation. Defenders were running back. It was going to have to be a precise hard shot. Instead, he fluffed it and sort of scuffed it wide, and then the final was, that was like in the 94th minute, and he was like face down in tears on the fucking pitch, like fully bawling his eyes out. But let's also be real, everyone likes him. He seems to be a lovable, popular lad, but he hasn't been good, has he? I mean, he's not been that. I think if you fail to shine in a Villa squad, you're probably average. Oh yeah, he even put an apology on Instagram, bless him. I'm so sorry to the Villa faithful for letting us all down a lot. Our failure to win is on me. But look, Wolves as well, this is a good result on the road. They need every point they can get right now. If I'm Southampton, if I'm Everton, if I'm West Ham, frankly, I'm looking at a team like Wolves finding this new stealing a point here, being competitive there, only losing by a goal when they're facing people who are pushing for the top 4. All of these things are going to factor in by the time we get to the end of the season, because, goal difference, So when you only lose 1-0 to United, you go, oh, good, Wolves are lost. They lost 1-0. You're going to lose 4. How do you think this is all going to total up at the end of the season? It's going to come down to the fucking wire, dickhead. So, so Wolves have this, like, steal about them. They've still got the same problem. They can't put the ball in the net very well, but, they got a goal here, and I thought they looked more lively than I've seen them since the change of gaffer. Now, I'll also say, what happened to fucking Adama Traore? What the fuck is going on there? This motherfucker was on loan at Barcelona, like, not that long ago. Now he's starting on the bench. He's starting on the Wolves bench. I don't get it. Like, surely you play him. But I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. But to be fair, he came on and he didn't do much. But that really struck me as surprising. But anyway, just a 1-1 game between two teams that aren't going to do much this season realistically, but much better result for Wolves. Now, we get to the big one. Everton, Fat Frank. Fraud watch. The ultimate fraud. Everyone at Everton should be on fucking fraud watch, frankly. There's maybe 1 or 2 players that shouldn't be on fraud watch. The board should be on fraud watch. Board watch? Maybe that's a new fucking thing. Everton are a fucking disaster. Spanked at home by Brighton, 4-1, and they conceded 3 goals in 7 minutes. And the goal that they got was a late consolation. meaningless within the context of the game. So let's just talk about this. I got a page of notes on this, right? So, because I'm so fucking done with Everton, and I feel sorry for Everton fans, because at the end of the day, I'll joke about Scousers. Red, blue, don't care which side of the river you're on. You're all right in my book. We're all working class shite together at the end of the day. So, you know, friendly banter aside, I fucking feel sorry for Everton fans. I think they've gone through a lot down the years. It's unwarranted, and it's always awful to live in the shadow of a club that's doing more and winning than you and having local bragging rights. And, you know, Everton's a club that's contributed immensely to Premier League history and FA Cup history and, you know, just had some fantastic players down the years. So, I mean, I predicted them to go down at the start of the season. You can go and have a look. I've never been more confident. I've never felt so good. Like, I've had a run recently where I'm getting wrecked in sports predictions, getting wrecked in football predictions, getting wrecked in NFL predictions. Sometimes the wind just blows against you. There's fuck all you can do. Everything you're saying is sensible. You know, all the numbers align and, you know, they're pointing that you should be right, but it's just how it goes sometimes. And I've had a terrible run. This I feel good about. And I was listening to TalkSport after this game, and the Everton fans are right there with me, by the way. They have accepted it. They have gone on that journey, the grief journey, where you go like denial bargaining, all that stuff. They've gone straight to acceptance, mind. Fair play to them. They're not like these delusional dickhead fans you see in other clubs. They've just gone, now we're fucking down this season. We're fucking down. We all know it. We all know we're down. Sorry for doing the accent, boys, but, you know, just livening it up a bit. Yeah, and I get it, because I said at the start of this season, your squad is the worst squad in the Prem. I think I'm right. I stand by that. I know that I've said Southampton are like favourites, but I think conceivably in terms of like spend, I think Southampton have probably done better in the transfer market than Everton. I think it's just, you've got a bit of a hodgepodge squad. You've got no discernible, you know, goal-scoring threat at Southampton, and you've got an inexperienced manager, right? A really inexperienced manager. Obviously, you can make the argument that Everton are the fucking, you know, in the same boat with Frank Lampard. But look, let's just get into it, right? I think Calvert-Lewin's given up. I just think he's given up. He's come back from injury again, done fuck all. He just looks a shadow of himself. I was a big fan of him. We were linked with him at Newcastle when he was coming back off one of his many little niggling injuries, you know what I mean? Not one of the serious ones. And back then I was big on the idea of him, and I was like, if he comes to tune, I'm all right with that. Like, I think he could be there, you know, 5, 6, 7 years, I'd certainly have him. This is obviously, you know, I think when we had Callum Wilson and like, fuck all else, you know. But I absolutely recant that. Like, no way, fuck that. He's not fit for Everton. He's not fit for the Prem. And I just don't think he cares. I think he's like totally given up. I was watching him play, and he just nothing, like lethargic. One of the Everton fans on TalkSport did a fucking brilliant joke, because obviously Pele had passed away as well. I know I didn't do a tribute to Pele, but I mean, come on, it goes without fucking saying he's the greatest player of all time. They did like a minute silence to Pele, and obviously Vivienne Westwood, the fashion designer, had died on the same day as Pele, so, you know, bad day to die. And this Everton fan called in and said, when he was doing that minute silence at the start, he was doing it for Vivienne Westwood, because he doesn't know who fucking Pele is. He doesn't know nothing about football. I was like, fucking hell. And the thing is, as well, that's funny, because he's done all these like fashion shoots lately where he's like dressed in like a schoolgirl uniform and stuff. So I don't know. But at the end of the day, for me, like, I don't know, maybe I'm like too much like a Roy Keane or something, or like Baker Mayfield in the NFL. You can do all the adverts and all the fashion shoots and all the endorsements and all the celebrity swanking around. You can do all that if you turn up on a fucking Saturday and do your job. You can fucking have it all, right? Like, it was like when Beck's, you know, he's there, he's at fashion galas, he's got a man bun, he's at the fucking Spice Girls concert, he's doing all of this. You can do all that, mate, because you're fucking killing it on the pitch on a Saturday, like, sound, right? But if at any point you ain't, you better cut that out your fucking life and knuckle down on the football. That comes first. That's my attitude. And I just don't think Calvert-Lewin's I just don't think he cares. I've never seen just a more like big name player in a while at least be so lackadaisical in his approach to football. He's a big strong striker as well, you know, like put yourself about, chase down a ball, do something. He does fuck all, and it's criminal. It's criminal. That stood out to me. And oh yeah, and that was the contrast to Bernard Johnson at Forest. You think about Bernard Johnson, who the fuck's he, right? He's running around, chasing down the ball, getting in players' faces, literally squaring up to players over 50-50 tackles. Like, you fucking want it. Do you want it? He's going to fucking die for your team. He is going to fight and die for your team. That's what you need when you're in the bottom. Who's doing that for Everton? No one. Not one of them. Not one of them. That's despicable. That's despicable. There are players there, you might, like I say, the best two players, Iwobi, who's not been there long, and Conor Cody, who's on loan. They're the ones that are fighting. That's staggering to me. Like, where's your pride, Get the Brighton praise out the way, because obviously, again, Brighton, fucking propaganda channel, Graham Potter propaganda channel, all that bollocks. He's fucking, Matoma, strength to strength over the course of this. Like, what a fucking, another great game here, just beastly. But the player I'm going to highlight is Ferguson, who's come through, youngest goal scorer for Brighton, banged in a goal, rocked up with 2 here again. He's going to be at a really big club in 2-3 years. He's not staying at Brighton. This kid is fucking unreal. He's big. He is strong. He will shoot from distance. He can pass. He can run. He's someone else. Like, I've only seen him in a handful of games. I feel comfortable earmarking him for greatness. He's going to get snapped up by a United or, by, fuck knows, maybe even Potter comes back and takes him to Chelsea, because, boy, they would love this kid down there. So, I don't know, but he's fucking legit. And Brighton just look legit. Like, I think they're going to be the surprise element. I think they could sneak into Europe this season, for real. Now, back to bashing on Everton. Let's just go into it. Think about Brighton's squad and the players and how cost-effective it is, and now they've even got youngsters coming through that look like fucking world beaters. And then let's talk about Everton. They have spent $500 million. $500 million. That's not a million. $500 million. Right, in the last few years. Look at some of these signings. I wrote them down. I was shocked. Shocked at the money they've spent. Onan, 33 mil. Iwobi, 28 mil. Mina, 27 mil. Godfrey, 25 mil. Decore, 20 mil. King, 25 mil. Pickford, 25 mil. They're just the players that are still in the fucking squad now. Does that look like a squad of multiple 25 to 30 million pound signings? Does it, bollocks? It looks like a reserve team. It doesn't even look good enough to be in the Prem, frankly. And then, that's before you get the busts like Moisey Keane. Like, when he come over, I was like, oh, that could be good. That was 25 mil. Complete fucking waste of everyone's time. Balassi, 25 mil. Schneiderlin, 22 mil. Right? Torsen, 27 mil. The list goes on and on and on. $500 million, and you don't see any of that on the fucking field. So, I mean, look, apparently this chairman, he just loves to fucking make his own signings and force players on managers. That's generally not workable, but at the end of the day, if you've got a competent manager with a vision who is tactically sound, you can do things with, first of all, not your own players. Look at Ten Hag at Man United, case in point. And you can do things where you get value out of players that, like, just aren't really all that good, And also, case in point, Ten Hag at Man United. But not just him, there's a few. I mean, Eddie Howe, right? Like, Eddie Howe at Newcastle, what's he doing? He's making Joe Linton look like fucking Dunga. It's fucking mental. Like, right, fair play to him, So it's doable. But Frank Lampard is not the guy. He never was the guy. Like, listen, when Frank went to Chelsea, I'm on record. You can go look it up, probably. I've said I thought he was hard done by. I thought it was unlucky that he did. He took him from fourth to fourth, basically, and didn't improve. And they had some pretty high-profile bad results as well. And, they cut him loose, and he didn't have a chance. But I thought he did all right at Derby. Well, look, what Frank Lampard has shown to me is basically, if once you've got past there, fucking hell, it's Frank Lampard. Like, once you've got past that, and then it's like, right, Gaffer, what do I do? Frank just goes, well, you You got to win balls and, play passes. And have you tried shooting from 25 yards? I was really good at that. It's like, he's got no clue. Since he's joined Everton, 29% win rate. This, by the way, is including the cup games, right? He's had 4 wins this season, right? 4 wins in 20 games, but one of them was against fucking Fleetwood in the cup. Like, it's not good enough. It's beyond relegation form. 3 wins in fucking 18 games. It's beyond relegation form. And he's out of ideas. The one thing I'll say is I've seen a lot of the Everton fans go, and it's not on Frank Lampard. No manager could do better. Of course, there's managers that could do better. Of course there is. You're right. Fucking sack the board. Absolutely. Your board has mismanaged your club to the brink of disaster. There's no doubt about that, because, again, if Everton go down, I know I said this about Burnley, and Burnley going to bounce back up. Or Vincent Kompany's just fucking lights out. What an absolute gangster he is. But, it shouldn't have been that way. Burnley had to sell all their players just to sort of stay afloat in the Championship. Everton, at different ballpark for me. $500 million spend, and then you get relegated. Parachute payments aren't going to touch the fucking sides of that. All your players are going to leave. And then, what are you going to do? And then probably you have to keep Lamps down there in the fucking Championship. Oh, Christ, what a nightmare. So, I think the time is now. I think we can have a talk about sacking the board later, but for now, you got to get a gaffer in. It's Sean Dyche time, guys. It's Sean Dyche time, I'm telling you. He's going to become if he doesn't get a proper team, just let him be the next Big Sam, except not a cunt, because I like Sean Dyche. So, he can come into your club and do a job for you and get you a system that's going to grind you out results and not lose 4-1 at home to Brighton. Good as they are, Everton can't be allowing that to pass. The other game I'm probably going to wax lyrical about, even though it was far from a classic, Arsenal 0-0 with Newcastle. Now, just a few notes here, because obviously this game, 0-0, it's always hard to talk about them, but there was a lot going on here. Newcastle have just proven themselves to be a defensive powerhouse again. This is the type of result. This was unthinkable under Steve Bruce. We just go to Arsenal and lose 4-0. If we're lucky, we keep it to 4, you know what I mean? And Steve Bruce goes, well, what can war do? We're war lads and war team, and I thought we were good, were in spells. Fuck off, you squashy-nosed prick. It was embarrassing listening to him just cluelessly bundle his way through fucking post-match interviews. A clueless moron that was propped up by his friends in the media. Eddie Howe, a fucking great tracksuit manager who's come in with a plan and a system, has essentially he's bought some players, but he bought Dan Burn and he bought Botman, right? So, he didn't go out, he didn't get fucking, he didn't get the best of Europe, did he? He bought players that would have been easily within Bruce's wheelhouse if Bruce wasn't a clueless cunt who knew nothing about football, right? So at the end of the day, brought in, players that he knew he could do a job from in the system, and I think we are the best team in the league I've seen defensively. Arsenal are the best footballing team in the league I've seen this season. I think they're above City. And we shut them down. And we shut them down hard. And Arteta was dancing around on the sideline like a prick, making a fool of himself. Still got a little bit of that, because he's like an ex-player and he loves the club. I don't doubt that for a second. But he made a twat of himself in this game, real talk. I get it, because the ref had a shocker. We'll talk about that in a bit. But, he was dancing around like a tit. But it just belied his frustration that, this was battle of the paper-thin squads. Newcastle, we had to shut you down. We couldn't play football against Arsenal. We couldn't beat you with football. We had to beat you defensively. We had to beat you by being spoilers. Sometimes it's just like that in football. Arsenal are unquestionably the better team, but we were able to get a result because we shut down what Arsenal wanted to do. It was tetchy. It was, fucking just non-stop football, just in terms of every time 2 passes got together there was a foul or shirt pull, or it was just destroy your football. But that's what we had to do to pick up a point and stay in the top 4. So it is what it is. And I get why Arteta was frustrated, because old Arsenal squads would have just brought on some unbelievable player that would have just changed up the game, and then you concede a goal. But equally, the ref was diabolical. If you're an Arsenal fan, you have every right to feel aggrieved. I'm not talking about the handball at the end, although I will just add, how many times have I talked about in Prem Review about that exact type of ball hitting the hand being given as a penalty this season? It's happened multiple times. So don't tell me, all the pundits out there, that's never if you start giving that as a penalty, we are giving that as a penalty. We've been giving that as a penalty. The problem is no consistency. The refs are a joke. So that shouldn't be a penalty, but it has been a penalty, so I get it. But that's not the problem. The problem was Dan Burn shirt pulled Gabriel in the fucking box blatantly. And if you pull a shirt, not only is it a foul, it's a mandatory yellow card. So I don't know what the fuck I don't know how that isn't a pen. If I'm an Arsenal fan, I am livid over that. And just as a fan of the game and good refereeing, at the end of the day, that was a pen. That should have set up a really good, strong finish for a game. Just talking neutrally. Arsenal absolutely would deny a pen there and potentially 3 points. And that could be crucial at the end of the season. And the refs have skated on that one. Arteta after the game said, we were given two, it was what was it he said? I think he might have used the word disgraceful or something, or whatever. But the bottom line is, he was right. Now, a few other things just to highlight here. I thought Nketiah led the line really well until he picked up his yellow card, and then he had to play a bit cautious. Nketiah didn't keep up his goal scoring, but I'm really liking his development as a player. He went at the Newcastle defenders, and that's not an easy thing to do. He put himself about it. Good on him. Good on Eddie. I know Kyle Walker did pocket Mbappe, and everyone was super stoked about that. I'd take Trippier over him for real. I think he's just fucking insane. He gives you a dimension on a set piece. His corners are mustard. His free kicks are great. They can be indirect or direct. He's got really good range of passing, really good positional play, strong in the tackle. Trippier was man of the match in this game, probably. One of the main reasons we shut Arsenal down was he just seemed to be fucking everywhere, frankly. So, overall, happy with a point. Arsenal can feel aggrieved if they're given that penalty. Who knows how it really turns out? But overall, it's one of those results where it's a fair result, just on reflection, on balance. But Arsenal, yeah, I get it. I get why you're pissed off. United 3-0 over Bournemouth. And I just want to say, this is how Ten Hag he's turned the corner. United have turned the corner. He was always going to, again, another prediction I felt very comfortable with was that Ten Hag was the right man for United, and I thought it was going to take him a season to turn it around. I thought he was going to have to clean out the deadwood and deal with the Glazers and try and get some credibility with the fans to make some hard cuts, get Ronaldo out, get Maguire out. He's done all that anyway. He just put his balls on the fucking table. There you go. See my fucking balls? They're as big as my big bald head. Look at my balls. And everyone's gone, holy shit, this guy's got fucking massive balls. And it has worked. I mean, you think about how well Rashford's playing, even in spite of the disciplinary issues. You think about, how, he has made these difficult decisions that, could have had ramifications on the dressing room. But, he has rightly identified for me the toxic elements in United in the form of Ronaldo, in the form of Maguire, that weird captaincy power struggle they were having that was getting reported about in the papers and everyone was denying. But it was definitely happening, wasn't it? He's got rid of them. He said, fuck it. You're a pair of prats and we're not doing this anymore. We don't do this at United anymore. You turn up late for a meeting, you're not even fucking playing the game. I don't care. Top scorer, fuck you. This is how it works now at United standards. And they just look a different team. United going to Bournemouth, even at the start of the season when Ten Hag first come in, you'd be fucking nervous. Remember Brentford turning them over? You would be fucking oh no. But United just fucking were just in complete control from start to finish. Casemiro is in full stride in the Prem. When he came in, I was like, I don't know if Ten Hag's going to vibe with him. I don't know if he's a Ten Hag style player. Whether or not he is, who fucking cares at this point? Casemiro's proven himself to be just quality. I mean, just exudes quality on the field. Great in the tackle. Great range of passing, fully committed, looks to have so much energy. Another thing people were saying was he was getting the bag late in his career and he was just going to come and be a bum. Well, he hasn't done that. He hasn't made up the numbers at all at United. He's been a linchpin player for them. He was fucking great. He dominated play from start to finish. Then I've got to say this because I know De Gea Yeah, people are back and forth on him. Roy Keane lights him up all the time, every opportunity he gets. De Gea, when Bournemouth had a spell, and I think Bournemouth are a good enough Premier League team where they're going to get a spell. It's just what they do with that spell. De Gea shut him down. De Gea is still a quality keeper for me. And, I know Ten Hag doesn't vibe with him either, and there's a good chance, actually, he's not there next season. De Gea, based on everything they're saying in the press, but he shut him down. He made 3 great saves, which any of those goals go in, we suddenly could be talking about a very different game. And yeah, I mean, look, it's 6 wins in a row for United now. It's the best run they've had in fucking like 4 years or something mental, as crazy as that sounds. They are a very different beast now. For me, the way I would revise my thinking, I said I had them at 6th or 7th, I think, in my predictions, and said it could be even lower because Maguire is a disaster piece at the fucking back. As long as Ten Hag keeps this squad, I think with Tottenham being the way they are, Liverpool being the way they are, and Chelsea being the way they are, United are in my top 4 now, as things stand. And I think I saw nothing to make me think any different. And then the last game, typically a tantalising prospect, Chelsea-Man City. But nah, I mean, it wasn't really. There was no doubt in my mind City were going to win, but fucking hell, they made a meal of it. It was only 1-0. Chelsea is still carrying all these like legacy injuries. I feel very sorry for Graham Potter because it was going to be a tough job anyway. It was going to be a tough job with somebody else's squad, essentially. And then you don't even have the best players from that other person's squad. So it's like a mad job Potter's took on here. They were very good, I thought. Not very good. I mean, they were good enough. They went toe-to-toe with City, who were like really overthinking things, I think, a little bit in the first half. Just like they weren't quite there. And in the end, there was a few changes that Pep made. Plus, they started targeting Cucurella, who, he's had a fucking nightmare. This is the worst game he's had since he joined Chelsea, and it just so happened to be against City. But he just, for me, he kept doing this thing where he kept trying to win the ball, like, high up the... Instead of jockeying the man and just going with the man and showing him the outside, he kept trying to win the ball, like, high up the park and, like, going for a tackle. Like, you're doing fucking 5-a-side, basically. You know what I'm talking about. Because it's like 5-a-side, fuck it. You win the ball and you just dive in. Well, it's like, well, if you miss, they're in on goal, right? Because it's 5-a-side. Well, he's doing that from right back in the Premier League, diving in. And it's City. It's just space to run into now when they've got players that are going to punish you. And it happened I'm not even saying 3 or 4 times. I'm talking 5, 6 times. It was really embarrassing. And he just got targeted on that side, it looked like. All of City's best work came down there, and Cucurella looked out of his depth. It was a bad game for him. Potter did a interview afterwards where he just said, I'm not going to make any excuses. Obviously, stability helps, especially when you have an extreme amount of games. We've had injuries to key players, but I'll never make any excuses about that. That's what happens in the Prem. So, look, at the end of the day, I'm sympathetic as well to Potter, the job he's took on at Chelsea. But I think conceivably, given that, they're still going to not have Kante for a while, they're not going to have Reece James for a while, not going to have Fofana for a while. Those are 3 massive players right there. As before you get into anything else. And Mason Mount, I think, might have gone off in this game as well with a knock. So, I mean, by the way, I know Mason Mount's a meme, guys. I'm not. But, Chelsea are in a position now where all of a sudden they're getting down to the bare bones of what's a pretty big, high-caliber squad. And, probably going to miss out on top 4. I mean, I think at this point, I think that's the safe bet. I mean, they're at 9th still. These are games where, you could have saw Chelsea maybe, with a full-strength squad, maybe could be another Man City dropping points type of thing. But, nah, in the end, they're gonna struggle until they get those players back. Kante is just a huge miss for them. Midfield just feels barren without him. So, there you go. That is the Prem review. So we're all up to date now as far as I can tell. I think that's all of the games. The FA Cup break is starting now as of recording this. So that the next set of Prem games I think are going to be around about the 15th. So we're going to get everything edited out, up to date, and then hopefully we're going to be able to go back to what we did, which is week to week on Prem Review. And yeah, so as always, do like, comment, subscribe. Helps all the algorithm, especially as for whatever reason these videos are always demonetized. Mind you, I am talking about Ten Hag's balls and calling people cunts, so maybe on the new PG PG-friendly YouTube. Maybe that's why. But look, it's been a fantastic season. I'm looking forward to doing the halfway point review. Make sure you tune in for that. We'll be doing that on a live stream probably. And yeah, all the best to the victors, the spoils. See you next week.